Samlot Music YouTube channel. Now today I'm going to be continuing on with my series of reviewing the Beatles albums with their 8th studio album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, released in June 1967. Now as usual, I'm going to say a few notes and give a bit of background behind the album before I get on to the songs. So just a quick recap of what I said towards the end of the Revolver album review. In August 1966, the Beatles gave up performing live as they couldn't hear themselves play or sing over the sound of thousands of screaming fans in the audience. But also, as was shown and indicated on the Revolver album, they were increasingly becoming more experimental and adventurous in the studio. So the fact the band quit touring to become full-time in the studio gave them lots more time to work on the music, and this album took 5 months to record. They had come a long way in just over 3 years when you consider their debut album Please Please Me was recorded in only 1 day. So it was Paul McCartney who thought of the idea of Sgt. Pepper when travelling back from America on a plane in late '66. The initial idea was that Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band could be the alter ego band of the Beatles, because touring was behind them. And it's a pretty good idea, really. It was kind of a liberation thing because they'd given up touring and they'd now gone into the studio. And some people call it the first concept album. I'm not sure. It could be the first. Could be certainly one of the first albums to have a theme or concept behind it. So recording began at Abbey Road Studios, London, on the 24th of November 1966. And interestingly, the first 2 songs recorded in the sessions didn't make it onto the album, and those were Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. 2 songs, Strawberry Fields written by John, Penny Lane written by Paul, about 2 childhood locations in Liverpool, where I've been on the Beatles bus tour. I've seen the locations. Producer George Martin decided to put them out as a double A-side single rather than on the album, and a new singer called Engelbert Humperdinck beat the Beatles to number 1 with Please Release Me, the only time another artist beat the Beatles to number 1 in the 60s. And George Martin later said in the 1992 documentary that not including those 2 songs on the album was one of the worst decisions of his career. So, if there is one man I must mention in regards to this album and the Beatles' music in general, it is Mr. George Martin, who was crucial to their artistic development, and his production work on this album is outstanding. I'll say more about his production work when I go on to the songs. So, the album cover, the infamous album artwork, was designed by pop artist Peter Blake, and Peter Blake compiled a collage which, at the Beatles' request, includes all their heroes, and some of the famous faces included on here is Bob Dylan, Marilyn Monroe, there's Karl Marx the philosopher, Tony Curtis the actor, Stuart Sutcliffe, the original bass player of the Beatles in the very early days in Hamburg, Germany, Marlon Brando the actor, and there's waxwork figures of the Beatles were there, which kind of shows the older image with the suit and tie and the same hairstyle. And here we have in the middle the new hippie Beatles with their new image, the moustaches and colourful outfits. And it was the first album to feature lyrics printed on the back cover. They're there. And also there's a gatefold. Photo of the band. This is an original 1967 pressing of the album, which someone I know gave to me last year. And I have the 2017 50th anniversary mix by here, which Giles Martin, George Martin's son, remixed in 2017, and it went back to number 1 on the UK charts after 50 years, which is brilliant. And also I have just used the CD version by for 2017. So the album is a very iconic album cover, to say the least, and it's been parodied many times by the Rolling Stones on their Satanic Majesty's request. And in popular culture as well, The Simpsons have done it, and many other people have done the cover. And the album cover, well, and the album itself, is a great reflection of what's known as the Summer of Love, the hippie era of 1967. A lot of younger people were, taking LSD, and including the Beatles themselves, And it's a great reflection of that particular time. And so I'm going to get on to the songs, and I have my psychedelic shirt on and my John Lennon glasses and moustache ready for the album review. So on to the songs. We start off with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the title song. Sterling opening song and way to start the album. Great electric guitar work by Paul to start off, which leads the song into Paul's brilliant rock vocal. He really screams out the vocals, And it was George Martin who put together the opening sound collage, the sound of a band warming up, getting ready for the show, if you like. And this takes us swiftly along to With a Little Help from My Friends. We have the introduction of Billy Shears, the fictional character played by Ringo Starr. And, Ringo takes the lead vocal, which he handles superbly. And we have the great John and Paul's call and response back in vocals. Do you need anybody? And so on and so forth, which is very good. And there's a great story which Ringo says about in the Making of Sgt. Pepper documentary from '92. He was a bit insecure and nervous about the last line. So John helped him with it, with the last line. That bit which ends the song. So moving along to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. John Lennon wrote this song about a drawing that his son Julian brought home from school one day. And John just asked Julian, what's that called? And Julian said, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And it's kind of a light bulb moment for John. He went away and wrote the song. Now, the BBC banned this song in 1967 because the initials spell out LSD, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, right? Which is it's a bit silly they did that, really, because the song is actually about a drawing. Of course, the Beatles were taking drugs during the sessions. They were taking LSD. There's a dispute whether it is about LSD. But anyway, it's maybe the most psychedelic song on the album. It's kind of takes you on a trip while you listen, with a surreal imagery and interesting mixture of instruments. Paul's Lowry organ, do 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 do, and mixed with the drone of George's tambura, Eastern instrument. So we go along quickly to Getting Better after this song. Very catchy and uplifting song. Great bass line by Paul. Really comes out the speakers, really. And the song came about when Paul was singing away on the piano. The refrain of the song, it's getting better all the time. Whilst John in the background sang, it can't get no worse. So it's a great synthesis of Paul's eternal positivity mixed with John's sort of cynicism and negativity, And we also, George plays in the middle of this song, tambura is brought into this pop song, the Indian instrument, which just gives an interesting effect to the song. An interesting story, during the recording of this song, John Lennon, who thought he was taking an upper pill, accidentally took LSD on the microphone, and George Martin had to take him on the roof of Abbey Road Studios for fresh air. And as John recalled in his 1970 interview with Rolling Stone, once I took it in the studio, LSD, I thought I was taking some uppers. I got so scared on the mic, I thought I must get some air, and George Martin was looking at me funny. It dawned on me I must have taken acid. So that's that story there. That's Getting Better. So going along to Fixing a Hole, which is a pretty straightforward song. Nice use of harpsichord and electric guitar work by Paul, actually, and he plays the nice solo on here. And the lyrics could be something to do with the illusion of taking LSD again, maybe, with the line, I'm painting the room in a colourful way, and when my mind is wandering, there I will go. Could be something to do with the use of LSD. After this, we have the very poignant song, She's Leaving Home, which was mainly written by Paul and based on a real newspaper article about a girl who ran away from home called Melanie Coe. She was fed up with life at home in her kind of demanding parents, I suppose. And Paul wrote a song about it. Paul mainly sings the song, he sings the verses, but John sings the middle eight. We gave her most of our lives, which is very nice, And George Martin actually didn't compose the score, the strings score for this song. It was a guy called Mike Leander. He did it. And apparently it kind of annoyed George that they asked someone else because George wasn't available. So there we are. She's Leaving Home. So next step, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. John wrote the song, and he took the lyrics basically from a Victorian circus poster, which he found at an antique shop in Sevenoaks, Kent. And I've seen the actual poster which inspired this song at an exhibition in Liverpool Art Museum last year, which Yoko Ono had on, and that was interesting. Yeah, it's a pretty good song. It's not my favourite on the album, and I think the circus sounds are cool, especially on the song. And how that came about was John told George Martin he wanted to smell the sawdust of a circus, the circus atmosphere. And to achieve this, George Martin and the engineer Jeff Emmerich threw tape loops in the air at random and just stuck them back together randomly, which created the circus sound collage which is heard in the middle of this song and at the end. So we move along to Within You Without You, the opening song of side 1, the Indian style epic Within You Without You, which is George Harrison's only contribution to Sgt. Pepper. And a lot of people don't like the song. Some people think it's maybe slow or boring, but I think it's a brilliant and intriguing piece of music, really. And the lyrics are very philosophical and spiritual, kind of inspired by George's Eastern obsession, which he'd got into around this time. And the instrumental section in the middle is very interesting, with George's sitar blended with the Indian classical strings played by Indian session musicians from London. It's a very interesting mix of instruments in the middle of the song. I really like that section. So a serious Indian-inspired song is briskly followed by a nice 20s style vaudeville tune, When I'm 64. Paul wrote the music for this when he was 16 years old and added lyrics to the song during the Sgt. Pepper sessions and recorded the song for his father's 64th birthday. Now, it's one of those songs by Paul which John would describe as granny music, granny music shit, as he would describe it. I must enjoy some granny music, because I enjoy this song, I do, it's a nice sentiment on it, Paul's looking towards what life would be like at age 64, will you still need me, will you still feed me when I'm 64, So moving along to Lovely Rita, written by Paul about a meter maid which caught his eye. Meter maid, another term for a traffic warden lady. I think it's based on a real traffic warden lady he saw in London, I think. And there's an interesting sort of instrument, or I suppose effect on this song. The comb and paper. It kind of sounds like a kazoo. Sorry about that. Used on this song. Yeah, it sounds kind of like a kazoo. And interestingly too, George Martin's sort of whimsical piano solo is speeded up on this song. So we'll move along next to Good Morning, Good Morning, written by John, inspired by a Kellogg's cornflake commercial. And the lyrics are about mundane suburban life, and there's various animal noises towards the end of the song, a technique that had been used on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album previously. And there's a great guitar solo in the middle by John on the song. So we move along next to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise, which is a reprise of the title song. It's shorter than the title song, but more fast-paced, energetic and catchy, and I enjoy it. And then the reprise takes us into the album's grand finale. Where to start? A day in the life. Where to start with this? John Lennon wrote the verses, and they're based on a real newspaper article he had read about Tara Brown, the 22-year-old Guinnessaire who was friends with the Beatles, who died in a car crash. The line "he blew his mind out in a car" refers to his death. In the middle of the song there's a 41-piece orchestral climax, and George Martin basically told the session musicians to play from the lowest note to the highest note on their respective instruments. It creates a huge chaotic wall of sound in the middle of the song. And this build-up takes us into Paul McCartney's middle section. Woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. An unfinished song Paul had, which him and George Martin decided to put in the middle. So it's basically two unfinished songs, one by John, one by Paul, mixed together to create one song. That's what A Day in the Life is. And then the orchestra builds up once more, and the song finishes with the final striking piano chord, the longest piano chord in music history. So A Day in the Life is structurally and progressively a masterpiece, and probably the best example of Lennon and McCartney working together as a songwriting partnership. As John Lennon described it simply in his 1970 interview with Rolling Stone, it was a peak. And I suppose, yeah, A Day in the Life, I suppose in a way it is a peak of the Beatles' recording career. So that's A Day in the Life, and that's my review of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band review. And although there's some albums I prefer, Revolver, The White Album, probably even Abbey Road, I'll give this album a 10 out of 10 because musically and culturally it's their most important piece of work probably. So that's my review of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album, released in June 1967. Thank you for watching, who decides to watch this, and feel free to like, share and subscribe. Peace and love. I'll see you next time.